Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Oh boy. So, well,
Oh boy.
welcome, Johnny Million. Thanks for joining us. You were in a race this
Thanks for
morning.
having me.
Yeah. What were you doing?
Yeah, someone in the I'm doing great. Someone in the chat said, I don't know, Johnny doesn't talk very much whenever I'm here. So, I don't know whether I need to double down or just clam up today.
It's really an artistic choice, I think. I would say go riff on that. Go with that. You know what I mean? Maybe,
That's right.
maybe talk a lot without saying anything. That apparently
there we go.
on YouTube, that's
I'm
a
really
big
good at
money maker. Keep talking, just don't say anything.
Don't say anything.
If anything,
because we gotta fill time.
that's the advice they give to every speaker as they walk on stage at the Justice for Jan 6 gathering. I'm nervous. I don't usually speak in front of people. Look, just keep talking. Just don't say anything. Okay, thank you. I feel so free now. I feel totally free.
I feel so free.
Now, obviously, in talking about the Septeenth gathering for Justice for Jan 6, which is, by the way, Jan 6 sounds like a sci-fi robot movie about the most disgruntled Brady
AI.
child.
Yeah.
Imagine a digital Jan who's just getting back at everyone, just laser eyeing Marcia. Yeah.
And she's the sixth version of Jan. They just keep cloning her as a robot, trying to get it right.
Right. Yes. It's the Terminator starring Jan from the Brady Bunch. Jan 6. Sorry. Anyways, there's obviously a lot of other news going on. Real news, like the United States and the UK and Australia joined forces this week in a way that has made France so angry that they're calling American cheese freedom cheese now. I don't know if you know this. France.
I love the sound of freedom cheese.
Freedom cheese sounds delicious and patriotic. Mm-hmm. It does sound. It's blue cheese and red wine cheese. Like the kind where they make, and then regular American cheese without the yellow.
Yeah.
Right, that makes sense. In a little loaf, like a Neapolitan.
Oh, right. Boy, right. Isn't white American cheese disturbing? It always freaks me out.
Right. It's like sodas with no coloring in them. You're like, oh, I've been lied to this whole time. It doesn't need to be that color to taste like this.
I need this to be crayon yellow.
That's right. This makes no sense. So that's Justice for Crayon Yellow cheese. There's an argument that that's the Lollapalooza sub stage at the Justice for Jan 6. The side stage is arguing that, I don't know if y'all know this, but American cheese is really white. They dyed that color just to make us less important. All right. The U.S., Australia, and the U.K. Formed a strategic alliance to push back against China's expansionism into the Indo-Pacific region and the South China Seas, and in many ways to protect Taiwan and arguably the potential for South Korea if China ever gets really desperate and decides to use North Korea to get the resources of South Korea, which has been one of those like subterranean fears that's been going on for a long time in the Pentagon and other places, that might be a possibility. And that fear ebbs and flows depending on how on its heels China gets at certain times. So the United States formed this alliance, and in this alliance, there are going to be 12 nuclear-powered submarines that are going to be made in Australia using U.S. and U.K. technology to propel them. These subs do not have nukes on them. They are nuclear powered. And
why am I already angry? I'm so angry.
Yeah, just because nuclear is in there. Yeah, and you're part French.
Nuclear.
I beg your pardon. You're right. Nuclear. And the reason they use nuclear drives in these is because it makes them run silent. They're hard to find. You can't find. Sure. Yeah, they don't have conventional engines on them, so they
might say they're silent but deadly.
That's true. Yeah, they are. They are the Trump Jr. of. I'm sorry, this is so bad. So The point I'm trying to make, if I have one at all, you see how we followed the advice? Just keep talking, don't say anything.
Keep talking. Don't have a point.
The French pulled their ambassadors from Australia and America this week.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were back and forth about like this. This seems like a strange turn of events. This seems like, where did this come from all of the sudden? You know, this seems like a big ratchet up. Here's, you know, we're all complaining about how, you know, Trump is distancing us from our NATO allies. And we hope Biden will get in there and kind of reform the bonds amongst, you know, these groups. And then here comes Biden like a bull in a china shop, making France all angry. What in the world? Well, it turns out France and the EU, France particularly through the EU, arranged for a deal with China that was not quite a full expansion of the Belt Road Initiative into Europe, but an investment alliance with China. One that the United States is not engaging in and doesn't think it's a good idea to engage in because of how their behavior towards the Uyghurs and Hong Kong democracy, and what they're doing in Africa, what they're planning on doing in places like Afghanistan, and the quality of the work that they do, quite frankly. Beyond all of that is that the Belt Road Initiative is largely window dressing, and what they do is they roll in and give you a road that'll last 8 years, but debt that will last 25. Say what you will about the idea that the UK and the US over time have given money to you know, developing countries and expected, you know, loan payments and the like, but the stuff they built is still there. Unlike a lot of the stuff that the Chinese are building, say in Pakistan on the Belt Road Initiative, which has a 10-year shelf life. Just like a lot of the Ghost City buildings in China, it's bad. It's not good. And it's not because the Chinese people aren't ingenious and productive and caring, smart individuals. It's because their government has an entirely different strategy. And that strategy does not involve the rest of the world having a functioning infrastructure. Understand that. Why would they go and build roads in these countries when they plan to basically take the resources eventually and hold on to them forever?
Yeah.
If you can build up your industry and develop as a country on your own, it doesn't do us any good, right? For, you know, the Chinese are thinking. And the EU just struck this deal in a hurry in December of last year because they knew the Biden administration would be against it and would want them to curtail it. So they decided to do it under a presidency in the United States that would look the other way, namely the Trump administration. For all this talk about how Biden's tied up with China and he can't do anything but, you know, kowtow out of China and he's giving all the, and Hunter Biden and yada, yada. The reality is that the EU secured this deal and started moving it forward in a hurry because they knew the Biden administration would be against it. And now, and now we formed this new, beyond the meeting of the Quad, which will push back against China, you know, using India and South Korea as well, as I think it's Japan against Chinese expansion in the Indo-Pacific region. We now have this other alliance, Australia, UK, and the United States forming together. This is brand new. And the whole goal is to stop military expansion. There's an economic expansion plan, and then there's a military expansion plan. And Australia took a real risk doing this. And the United States, you know, this is, you know, along with, you know, Nancy Pelosi calling what's happening to the Uyghurs genocide for the first time, signals a strategic shift in how the United States is viewing China overall on a material level. Instead of just casting aspersions on them and saying things like China virus, which equates the, you know, COVID with the individual human beings in China, a recognition that the government itself is the problem, not the people. And if the people had an option, as Hong Kong has shown, you know, without being rounded up themselves and their lives being put in danger, just like Russia, they would actually have a vast and expansive democracy in that country and make up their own minds about how they want to. And they would have, by the way, a bigger social safety net. For all the talk about communism and socialism, the United States has a better social safety net than China does. People fall through the cracks all the time. They just get scooped up and disappeared. It's sad. It's heartbreaking. And right now we've got elections happening all over. Today there's an election happening, or today, tonight, last night, this morning, whenever the time difference is in Russia. Canada's Monday. Russia's today. Of course, Putin's strategy, we got to take a break, but Putin's strategy, of course, is jail all your opponents, and it really affects turnout. Wouldn't it be fascinating if he lost to someone who was in jail? It wouldn't be the first time a country like Russia has had, that kind of circumstance.
I've heard of that before.
Yeah. China got rid of poverty. Yes, by disappearing the poor largely. And no, they didn't. There are as many poor people living on, near starvation levels in China as there are human beings in the entire country of the United States right now. I mean, grasp those numbers. And that's also stacked on top of my personal belief, and we got to take a break, my personal belief that there's not nearly as many people in China as they say there are. That's after being there, after spending a lot of time there, after traveling a lot there, I don't buy it. There's a lot of people there, not that many. Not that kind of numbers.
You spun around with your arms out?
I did.
Didn't hit anyone.
Nope. I was walking through crowded areas of town that were the biggest shopping districts, and I could stick my arms out and not bump into anyway, in a way that I could not in Times Square. The entire country of China should look like, the big cities anyway, should look like Times Square all the time if they have that many people. They do not. We'll be back right after this. We could so get down in a deep dive about, my experiences in China leading up to, I was filming a show there for, months at a time in the 2 years before COVID broke out. I came back, was doing my radio show in 2019 in December from my dad's house, while I was on Christmas vacation, bringing my kid to see his grandparents for the holidays and that kind of stuff. And I'm doing my show out of my dad's office. And I started telling everybody, look, there's something going around in China and it's freaking them out. There's really gnarly stuff happening. And if you know anybody from there, or you've been exposed to anybody from there and they might be ill, or you feel ill, cough into your elbow, where, don't go out if you're feverish, that kind of stuff, because I was aware of it then, just having been there. So there was no way the Trump administration wasn't aware of it. And there's also no way that other countries in the world weren't aware of it. They were just monitoring it, and either their scientists were poo-pooing it or going, yeah, it might be like SARS, or we'll see. And they were taking a wait-and-see view of it, or other people were panicking and not being listened to. They were Cassandra-ing at a massive clip. And the Chinese people in many ways are the victims in this, as much as just as the rest of the world is, because there were doctors in the Wuhan area in Hebei province who were seeing this rise in cases and were sounding the alarm, and they were shut down and silenced. Their words were taken off of social media. They were censored, and saying these things, and then one of them, the main one, ended up dying of COVID. And there were a lot of stories about that stuff. And that, in China famously shut down travel outside of Hebei province to the rest of the provinces, but you could fly out of Wuhan and Hebei province to the rest of the world. And that's, that was the Chinese government, not the Chinese people. They weren't concerned in that regard. And that's what partly the Hong Kong protests are about. That's what the people, if you want to see what Chinese people are allowed to do with democracy, when they're allowed to have it, look at Taiwan. Taiwan is a fantastic country with vibrant culture, a really open society, wonderful architecture. The best oolong tea in the world comes from there. There, I said it. Taipei 101 is one of the most beautiful. That's a weird
hill to die on, but okay.
Taipei 101, that was for a while the tallest building in the world. Beat by is gorgeous and adorable. It's built on a bamboo based architectural concept. It's got these giant, in all reference to Nicki Minaj, giant spheres on every corner of the building that are on huge springs that allow the building to sway like bamboo when the wind gets strong and stuff, so that it won't tip over, because that's the problem with these giant buildings. And unlike the
How many people do you think that lie will kill? The
Um,
the swollen testicle lie, hiding gonorrhea from your girlfriend.
I'm gonna go with there maybe a few AC/DC fans, a couple of Accept fans, um, and some soccer fans, and that's it.
Just the big bald ones.
Yes, just right, just people who like those songs. But if you look at Taiwan, Taiwan is the blueprint for democracy in China. It's wonderful. I really enjoyed while I was there. It has its quirks, certainly, as we all do. Some curious. Don't get me started on Bin Laden, which is a strange stimulant that they enjoy, which is these nuts that have this goo in it wrapped in a leaf, and you chew it instead of smoking cigarettes. Yes, it's in line with you chew it instead of smoking, basically, and it's got a nicotine-like stimulant, and it's pretty popular over there.
Oh, okay.
And you get it from these girls sitting in these weird booths on the side of the road, because that's what draws the truckers, and the truckers are the ones that buy it, so they put a pretty girl in the booth. It's so strange. It's a strange part of the society, but gay marriage is legal there. It's a very open society. Like it's great. And if China ever had a shot, and if they were ever exposed to en masse the democratic stylings of Taiwan, we would be living in a whole new world right now, Disney style. And the same thing is true of Russia, which has elections right now as well. Is Alexei Navalny the solution to all of Russia's problems? No. Is he the absolute key to them escaping the current lockbox that they're in? Because the irony is that Putin thinks that Alexei Navalny is in jail. In reality, the Russian people themselves right now are locked in a jail. They're in a permanent stuck position. That country has the land and the resources and the ingenuity and the scientific know-how that brought them nose to nose in the space program and in the nuclear technology programs with the United States of America, and with the economy the size of Italy. They were able to do this. The Russian people are brilliant and when they're allowed to be. And yet, nobody's buying a Russian car, a Russian washing machine, except a Russian, I suppose. And that's a shame. There is no reason why they wouldn't be competing in the world market with better ideas and greater things. That Russian windmills and green technology and the stuff that would be allowed to flourish if they weren't under the thumb of this nonsense. The same thing that's happening in China right now. And the Biden administration knows this. And how are they handling it? Well, they are taking a stronger stance about supporting Alexei Navalny and verbally doing it in a way that Trump never would. And they are forming alliances like the UK, Australian, US alliance, the AUKUS alliance, to distinctly push back against the military expansion while supporting democracy in Hong Kong. And slowly but surely, we are in the game of risk. We have moved out of Call of Duty and into game of risk. And that is the big fear right now. That is the big fear from sections of the news media, and it's certainly the fear of the right wing right now. What you are seeing from the Ted Cruzes of the world and the Donald Trumps of the world, and their biggest fear is not the socialism's going to take over America and tyranny will end the shot and all that kind of stuff. No, it's that you're going to realize that they're being a bunch of drama queens, and that none of what they're saying is true, and that the reality is we will get back to, in this country, a concept of we want a functioning democracy that doesn't eat up 80% of our mental space during our day, worrying about whether or not our government is functioning or not. We want it to we want it in competent hands that when there is a problem, we know about the problem, we hear about the problem, we hear about the multiple solutions so we can participate in it, like the border crisis and other things, but that it is being handled in a steady way, not a reactionary way. Now shut it. Open it. Now shut it. Now open it. Now shut it. Now open it. Like that's the Trumpian way. That's the maggot way. That's the Republican way. And it's simplistic, and it's very tic-tac-toe. And in the Biden administration is taking a long game approach to this. And a lot of it is paying off. The whaling, I will predict that the smaller infrastructure bill will get through, period, end of story, within the next few weeks. And the larger one will get through in reconciliation, and it will be about half as big. And what people will not recognize, and I don't want to give away the game.
And it'll still be really big.
It'll be huge. And it will provide, like I said, a functioning infrastructure bank that will allow loans to be taken from that infrastructure bank that when they're paid back, will give money into the federal coffers that then will seed more money that will be able to be loaned for other projects. And it will basically create a wind up of how we create infrastructure in our country that is no longer reliant on arguments over the debt ceiling. We got to take a break. When we come back, some of your calls 773-763-9278. Oh yeah, we're gonna take calls. Oh yeah, it's gonna happen. Get used to the idea.